Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Tamara.
And I'm Sheena.
And today we're continuing our theme of lesbian culture. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about gay and lesbian media.
Okay, what specifically about gay and lesbian media?
Well, I thought we'd start off with exploring what is gay and lesbian media, because I think it's a term that people don't seem to agree on, because is it media that is only gay or lesbian, or is it the representation of gay or lesbian people in general media?
Okay, do you mean is it media that is created by lesbians and gay guys, or whether we're represented or not? Is that what you're talking about? Is that the debate?
Yes, that's the debate.
Okay, well, for me, it's both.
Okay, so I agree with you. For me, gay or lesbian media is just that. It's any sort of representation of gay or lesbian people, whether it's done by gay or lesbian people or not. The question is, why is this important? Why is it important to have gay or lesbian people portrayed in media?
Or creating media? Well, it's important because it's important to see yourself. When I discovered lesbian fiction, it changed my entire life, because I went from thinking I was some sort of weirdo that nobody, actually wanted, some sort of strange creature, because I'd never met lesbians or knew of them being out. Every time you hear about a lesbian, it was like, oh, that, lesbian over there, and then some sort of comment about them being strange, different, or weird. And so I grew up in the space where I didn't want to be different. When I found lesbian fiction, there was positive representation. There was representation that mattered to me, that made me realize that actually I wasn't this weird, perverted something. I could be me.
And you've hit the nail on the head there. So studies have actually been conducted into this, and they have shown that people who grew up with positive role models in media of gay or lesbian characters had a lot more self-esteem and positive self-image than people who did not.
Oh, I can absolutely believe that.
So it's really important. And the thing is, it's from super young. So even having children's programs, books with gay characters in it is super important. And it also media helps to develop your sense of self. So the characters that you're watching, those actually inform part of who you're going to be as an adult.
You want to hear something really messed up? Is my knee-jerk reaction is kids stuff? Why? They're so innocent. But then I think about it and I'm like, actually, what's wrong with... Okay, so, but that's the point. I don't actually think that there's anything wrong with lesbian or gay or representation or anything. But it's the knee-jerk automatic reaction that comes from the first 19 years of my life without any of that.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, why you think that, it's because being gay, lesbian, or queer in any way has always come down to sex. So if you're like, oh my God, why do gay characters need to be in children's entertainment or media? And you're like, and you almost have this visceral reaction to it because there's sex tied into it. But that's not what it is. It's who you are as a person. Having a character on TV that happens to have parents who are same sex, what does that mean for the kid who, is on the playground and has feelings for her best friend Alice? What does it do for the kid who has two mommies or two daddies?
What does it do when she tells Alice, and Alice has been exposed to this, and she realizes this is not some sort of perverted something, and they can have a proper positive conversation about it, as opposed to it excluding this little lesbian?
Exactly. And that's what positive media does. And it's not about exposing kids to sex. It's about exposing kids to a world that is real, a world that has different types of people, and showing them that all of it is okay.
I like this idea.
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea. Now let's have a world where that actually happens.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? I can hear little music with that thought.
Okay, so I was looking into gay and lesbian media and looking at when in popular culture did this start to happen? When did we start to see gay characters, lesbian characters come into mainstream media? And when I'm talking mainstream media, I'm talking TV, because I think it's the most ubiquitous.
Okay.
Okay, so first gay character, so male gay character, was Billy Crystal in a sitcom called Soap, and that was in 1977. He was the first gay character, and while he was an important gay character, it was a comedy, so, it was still ha ha gay person. The next person who's seen as one of the first is Steve Carrington in Dynasty in 1981. And this was seen as a much bigger leap because this wasn't a comedy, it was a drama. Well, as much of a drama as Dynasty can be. So this was seen as a huge step. I mean, he was a character until at least 1988, so a long running character.
Was he a good character or was he a bad character?
I honestly have no idea. It was Dynasty, so probably a bit of both, and it was all very dramatic.
Okay. Because it's all very well having a gay character, but if the gay character happens to also be the bad guy, then there's problems. Then it's not actually representation.
Sure, but just having someone who is not straight on a mainstream TV show was a big thing.
Okay.
Okay, so let's guess when the first lesbian character came into TV.
I have no idea.
So the first lesbian character came in 1988. So remember, Billy Crystal, 1977. So a full 10 years after. And this was a show called Heartbeat, and it was Gail Strickland, and she was a nurse. Apparently not a major character, but she was a nurse with a girlfriend. So that was the first time that there was an actual lesbian couple on TV.
Wow.
Right? Okay, so then things progressed really, really slowly from there. So 1991 was the first lesbian kiss. And this was on LA Law with the bisexual character CJ. The next time there was a lesbian kiss on TV was in 93 on the show Picket Fences, where there were two teen girls who have a kiss. And apparently it was a really good representation because it was about homosexuality in adolescence. And apparently it was done really nicely.
Okay.
Okay. And then in 94, Roseanne Barr kisses another woman in the show Roseanne. And apparently this was quite a landmark moment because Roseanne had to fight the network to keep the show on. They didn't want to run the episode.
Okay.
So up to that point, I mean, the first kiss was in 1991, so this is like full 3 years afterwards. And even though there was already precedent for it on mainstream TV, she still had to fight for it to stay on. Okay, so then in 1996 was the first lesbian wedding on TV, and that was on Friends with Susan and Carol getting married.
Now, I'm not so sure this was super positive lesbian representation because pretty much the entire, first couple of seasons of Friends, Ross was complaining about his wife who left him for a woman. And so she becomes almost like an antagonist. Not in a terrible way, but that wasn't as super wonderful rep as it could have been.
It wasn't, but it was the 90s, so we need to keep that in mind. However, Susan and Carol's relationship was quite positive if you think about it. They remained together for the entirety of the run of the show. They were a stable relationship for their son. They loved each other. They tried their best to be co-parents with Ross. So, yes, while I think they weren't the best representation of a lesbian couple, I think they were a good representation of a lesbian couple.
In like all 6 episodes in the entire however many seasons.
Sure, but they chose to show them in a wedding. They didn't have to.
Okay, fair point.
Okay, so the 90s were crappy in terms of this kind of stuff, but I think it was a good step.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have Susan and Carol's wedding in 96, and then we have a biggie. In 1997, we have Ellen coming out with her character and herself in real life on the Ellen TV show, TV series. And wow, that was quite the thing, wasn't it?
Well, the thing is, right, up until then, people were playing lesbians, but they weren't necessarily actual lesbians. And so promptly thereafter, her show was cancelled, and she pretty much went into the worst spiral of her life, according to her. Because you can't have a lesbian on TV. You can't have a real-life lesbian on TV. How can you?
Because the advertisers drop you. But, Ellen is a shining light and that she overcame that, and now she's got quite the little media empire going, so there is a happy ending there.
And you're right. I mean, she did overcome, and now she is married to a very gorgeous woman, and they seem very, very happy.
So there has been a lot of lesbian representation in, well, not a lot. There's been some lesbian representation over the years, specifically in the 90s, with lesbian characters. But the biggest, and I think the most changing to the sector, was the L Word, where the lesbian characters, the gay characters, were no longer side characters. They were the focus of the show. They weren't the punchline, they weren't a sidekick. I mean, because even with gay media, if you look at something like Will and Grace, where you have Will, who is sort of, he's a main character, but he's, to Grace's straight character, but then you have Jack, who's just a buffoon. Or you have in Spin City.
Okay, but to be fair, you have Karen, who's straight, who's also a bit of a buffoon.
True. It's true. But gay characters in TV shows tend to be one of two things. They either tend to be like Jack, where they're super queenie, they're super camp, they're there to get the laughs, or you get the guy like Will or Carter in Spin City, who are very well dressed, very educated, very well mannered. So that's the two stereotypes.
Yes, but that's for lesbian men. I mean,
lesbian men.
Yes, but that's for gay men. That's not for lesbians. Think about lesbian stereotypes. Lesbian stereotypes tend to be straight women, essentially, who, like, they look like straight women. They're like femmes, but straight femmes. It's weird. Or butch women who tend to be either the bad guy or the butt of the joke.
Exactly. And the thing is, the L Word came along and changed that. They changed the gay characters or the lesbian characters or the transgender characters or the bi characters even from being just those supplementary people that have no depth to them. They're just a stereotype. I mean, they pretty much played the gambit with the sort of LGBTQ cast. I think everyone was represented in that cast at some point during all the seasons. Maybe not asexual.
I was just going to ask, was there an asexual in there?
I don't know if there was an asexual, actually.
I don't think there was.
Not very forward thinking of you, L Word. I'm sad that there wasn't a representation there, but, we had lesbians, we had bisexual women, bisexual men, we had transgender people.
Alright, so the L Word basically changed the game in terms of rep. Mm-hmm. Okay. But have we seen, since then, better rep?
I'm not sure. I mean, there was Willow and Buffy, which... she was one character, but I don't know if she was a huge representation, although she meant a lot to a generation of girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's, more recently, the Orange is the New Black.
Mm-hmm.
But considering, 99% of the cast are convicts, I'm not so sure about the positive representation there.
You know what I want to see? I want to see a really good show with an incidental lesbian. That's what I want to see. Someone who's smart and brilliant and not the butt of the joke. Why can't we have, well-dressed, well-mannered lesbians in TV? Do you know what I mean?
No, I get what you mean. Like, having said that there was the L Word, that there is Orange is the New Black to a lesser extent, there actually hasn't been that huge a jump if you think about it. I mean, in Supernatural, there's Charlie, who's kick-ass, but she's in a handful of episodes.
Well, this is the thing. We're seeing some lesbian side characters, but if you also think about it, when lesbians do appear, there's the kill your gays trope, which has been so prevalent in the last few years, and we'd be remiss not to talk about some of those, like Lexa from the 100.
Mm-hmm. And in Star Trek Discovery, this is gay male, but also incidental gay men, which is amazing, but also killed off.
It's problematic.
Sorry, spoiler.
But it is, it's problematic. The kill your gays trope is problematic. But what is epically cool is that come Clexcon, you know who's positive rep in TV nowadays is on Winona Earp, the sister and the cop.
Waverly and Hot.
Yes, them. That's good rep. And as far as I know, nobody does. I'm not that far into this series though, so...
No spoilers here.
and they're quite big, a big part of the show, which is really nice. They're not the main characters, but are we ever going to get main lesbians? Is my question.
I hope so.
Okay, an interesting thing that's come out of the whole kill your gays trope is the Clexcon movement, and Andy talks about it a lot on her various podcasts. But there's also a con called Clexcon, specifically started around a rebellion to this kill your gays trope, and thousands of supporters come to this thing every year. And in fact, this year they've got one. They had one in the US, and they're having one in the UK. So it's just taken on like wildfire. So we are standing up and we're saying, actually, this is BS.
No, we definitely need better and more representation. And I think we also need diversity in the type of shows and media that we have representation in. Like, something that comes to mind is Queer Eye for the Straight Guy back in the 90s, which I think probably was part of the reason why gay males became so popular in culture and gave rise to, the whole fag hag kind of stereotype, where it became fashionable for straight women to have like a gay best friend who was fabulous and knew about fashion and food and the rest of it. But that's kind of straying from my point. My point is the new version, Queer Eye, where it takes the same model of the original, except they don't do it just for straight men. So it's these group of guys who go and do, kind of give another guy a makeover, whether he's straight, gay, or whatever. But I'd love to see something like that for lesbians. Some sort of, not reality show, but something which gives lesbians a positive light and gives insight into how lesbians are humans and can be very helpful.
Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah.
Grey's Anatomy had lesbians. It might still have lesbians. I actually haven't watched in a while.
I don't believe that they might have lesbians, but not the two that you're thinking of. I think Kelly left.
Anyway, sorry, you were talking about gay guys. I'm straying back to lesbians. Okay, but here's an interesting point. How many TV shows are made? How many TV shows are aired every single day? And how many of those have got lesbian representation in them? I bet you it's less than 1%.
I'm sure. So if you're good with statistics and are a TV nerd, go do the maths for us and let us know.
We should be represented in at least 10%, since that's supposedly what we are in terms of the population numbers.
I even saw a study done by Gallup where it was 1 in 5.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually, and I'll tell you why I say this. I think the 1 in 10 came about during the Kinsey study. Okay, that's when that figure came about. But if you think about the time, people didn't even know what lesbian and gay was. They probably thought it was weird and didn't want to...
They didn't want to identify as that.
No, and as people become more aware that there are these different identities, they will probably be more and more open to it. So I'm actually not surprised if it has gone up. I don't think the actual number's gone up as in there's more of us. I just think more of us are accepting it now.
Okay, so that's it for lesbian and gay media. If we've left out any important lesbian characters, TV shows, let us know on Facebook at the Lesbian Talk Show group, or email us and let us know about it.
If you enjoy this podcast and the others on the channel, consider becoming a patron. Your patronage helps us grow as a channel. You also get exclusive behind-the-scenes content.
And if you enjoyed this podcast even more, go share it with your friends.
Check out the links in the show notes for more. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara.
And this has been Let's Talk About It. Bye.
Bye.